craziest story. At Carleton, we have this thing where we say Dave knows everything. When I was transferred from Illinois State, I went on a visit to Carleton, but I had told Dave I'm coming to Carleton. My sister played at Cleveland State. She was like, I'm going back to Cleveland. If you want to come, you can work out. And I was playing open gym with the guys there. And the coaches had seen it. Sure, we have extra scholarship that just came available. So I come into Cleveland State. I didn't tell nobody. Dave, he sent me a text. And they were just like, so you're going to Cleveland State. I didn't even know how to respond. I was just kind of like, huh? Hey everybody, my name is KAZA KAJAMI-KEANE. I recently played for NBC in Germany, played university at Carleton University. You were watching UndressTheJersey.
Little context about myself, little background. Like I mentioned to you already, you and I would have played when you were at Carleton at the Acadia tournament when I was playing for X with Bercy and all those guys, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of got into you, and then I saw you kind of continue on to FISU with Kevin and whatever. But beyond that, UndressTheJersey, I'm pretty sure that I featured your sister. Who did she play for Cape Breton?
My cousin, yeah, my cousin.
Cousin. So that was kind of neat to kind of see that connection at one point. But yeah, I just started out by doing little things like just storytelling about like anything about why you play the game you do and whatever. And I guess now I'm trying to challenge myself to do these kind of video interviews to make it a little more interactive. You back? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Sorry, something just happened.
That's all good. Beautiful. Okay, so now it's just open conversation. I guess just a little something to start it off is like I like to ask the question of how did you begin starting play the sport of basketball? Like just give us take us all the way back to the first time you remember.
Oh, for sure. Like it's interesting, growing up, a lot of guys like their role models are guys, like an NBA player or whatnot. But for me, it was my sister. So my sister played on the national team. She was like the youngest player ever to play on the national team. She was when played at Michigan State, like All-American, has her numbers up, she's really good.
Nice one.
So growing up as a kid, it was like I was the kid getting like dragged around to all her games, and it was like, oh, this is Kalisha's little brother, and this is Takima's I have two sisters, and this is Takima's little brother, So that's how it was for me. And like it's crazy. I was telling somebody a story about this the other day. Like I can remember vividly like being a little kid and my sister would bring me to the court and I was way too small to like get the ball to the rim. But she'd be out like playing, like she played up with like guys maybe like 3-4 years. So she's probably like 11 at the time and she'd play with like the 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. And I'd be sitting on the sideline and they'd be playing whatever. And then when they would like get a water break, she would like point, be like, come on, like go shoot.
Nice.
And then I would go like, shoot around and then she'd be like, okay, go sit. Like I just remember stuff like that. So for me, it was my sister, like watching my sisters play and then just being like, okay, I want to do that,
For sure. Because by her bringing you on the court, you felt like you were on this big stage of like you seeing your role model play this game and then you get an opportunity to hop on the court. I think I have like a similar story where my dad played for St. FX and every summer they had the summer camp. But whenever I was always too young, like I was 4 years old, I would be the guy, I wouldn't be in the camp. I would just be running around the locker room and hanging out with the guys and like being able to shoot in front of the camp and this and that. It's like at that point, university athletes to me were superstars. Like they were celebrities and to have an opportunity to have like a little like, I don't know, it's an inspirational or it lights something, right? When you're that young.
Yeah.
When did you know you wanted to pursue ball at a high rate? Like, go all in on it?
Pretty young. Like I kind of understood, like especially in my house, we were all really competitive, and kind of seeing how successful my sisters were, it kind of made me want to like drive and strive to be that same type of success. But I would say when I kind of switched that corner was when I was in grade like 9 or 10. My dad kind of sat down and was just like, okay, I was playing a lot of sports. I was playing basketball, I was playing baseball, I ran track. He said, okay, we're going to go in with one thing. Like, if you want to be really excel at one thing, we have to go all in. So I was like, okay, like, and he's like, which one do you want to go all in? And I said basketball. And then said, okay, like, let's do it, And then after that, like, I'd always been working hard, but it was like we put a lot more emphasis on, like, okay, let's make sure we wake up all the time to go work on basketball, And I think that was kind of like the turning point was when I just focused in on one sport.
Do you regret making a choice? Like do you ever have, not regret, I guess is the wrong word, but like, do you ever think back and be like, what if you went down, if you chose the other sport, if you chose track?
No, honestly, like, I always loved baseball. Like, baseball was probably my first love, and I played that, my whole, like, growing up and stuff like that. But for me, basketball with my family has always been like, it's like religion to us, Like, all my cousins play, my sisters play, my dad's a coach, so basketball was always going to be the number one for me. But I enjoyed playing the other sports, like, they kind of helped me in basketball to this day.
You never had an MJ moment? I was just watching the Last Dance last night, and you never had one of those?
See, I probably wouldn't have translated back to the sport that easily. Like, he translated pretty easily. He batted above 200, like,
right,
off 13 games. Like, I remember when I was in high school, I think I had taken maybe a year and a half, 2 years away from baseball. Like, I hadn't even touched the baseball. And then the coach asked me, "Okay, can you come back and play?" And I remember, like, I still had the fundamentals of things down, but it was just like they pitched a little too quick for me to, like,
It's another level.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember I was just like, I can't keep up with this, I'm
it's
very
always
competitive.
like, yeah, it's like when I remember the football players at X would be like, man, I'm like, pass me the rock. Like, I used to play ball in high school, but like, as athletic as they are, it's a different level when it comes down to skill at one point. At some point, if your skill's not on point, like, you're just not going to be able to hang. You grew up in Ajax?
Yeah, Ajax, Ontario.
And so it was just high school. Like, talk about the journey from high school to eventually wanting to go play university. Like, did you have a dream of wanting to go to the States? Did you think of prep school? Did you, like, what was going on at that time?
So I went to private school in the States for 2 years. But at first I went to Pickering High. So coming out, like, Ajax, this area, Durham, is a suburb of Toronto. So a lot of guys, their parents moved to the suburbs. So a lot of us come from this area. Like, Corey Joseph's from here, Macabre McIntosh, Bubakar Mutombo. Like, there's a bunch of us that ended up going to Pickering High that's from this area. Deshaun Pierre, prison national team, from this area. So it's like we all kind of competed against each other growing up. And then a bunch of us went to Pickering High. So I think in my freshman class at Pickering High, I think 6 of us went to go play Division I. So it was like we were pretty dominant. But then around those times, it was like everybody was going to the States to go to high school, And looking back on it now, I probably should have just stayed. Like, it wouldn't have changed where I ended up going. But we all left, and then I went to private school for 2 years. And after that, like, I went and played Division I for 2 or 3 years, and then came back to CIS.
What high school was it, or where were you?
I was in North Carolina. It was at called Christian Faith Center.
Okay, and then you ended up going to Division I from there. What school?
I went to Illinois State for 2 years, and then I transferred for a year to Cleveland State, and then I came back to Canada.
Okay, and that's always an interesting conversation, because as an athlete, especially from Canada, if your goal is NBA, you feel like there's only one way to get there, and you need to go Division I, right? And so to hear someone like you who made it there, like you did all the steps, you took all the sacrifices, you went to high school in the States, you moved away from home, you made Division I. What was the turning point that made you be like, all right, I don't actually have to be here. Let me go to Carleton. Like, let me go to Canada.
Sorry, I cut off.
Did you hear that?
Cut off for a little. Yeah, I heard the question. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, I just didn't think I was developing to the rate that I wanted to be at. But like, in the moment, you don't see it like that, Like, for instance, when I left Illinois State, it was definitely like, I think sometimes athletes don't understand, like it's a performance-based industry,
Right.
and I think sometimes athletes think like, oh, the coach just doesn't like me, or I'm not like, I'm not playing because he likes.
I'm losing you. Okay. Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, it keeps cutting out. I don't know.
Performance-based.
Yeah, so like it's a performance-based business. Like if you play good and you perform at your highest level, you're gonna play. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, I don't think Nick Nurse is gonna be like, well, I don't like Kawhi Leonard, so he's not playing. Like, no, he's gonna play. He's the best player. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
I think sometimes people don't understand that. Like when I was at Illinois State, like I wasn't performing, so like you're gonna get over recruited. You're gonna, you know what I mean? You're not gonna play, and that's just how it is. But in that moment, I wasn't looking at it like that. Like I was looking at it maybe like, oh, the coach doesn't like me, or oh, he just has favorites or ours. You know what I mean? And I think that was one thing like I struggled with. So I transferred, and I was just like, bitter at the world and upset, and like, I was mad. And then kind of similar thing where when I got to Cleveland State, like that situation just kind of occurred because of me going into my senior year. I didn't really want to just waste a year, because going into senior year, there's 4 of us that were going to be like the starters, like main guys, but the other 3 guys transferred. So like I was gonna go into my last year by myself, and I was kind of like, okay, like I don't want to waste a year, like that's gonna be tough. But it was, craziest story. I'm going on a little far, but like,
no, hey, this is what it's all about.
So when I was transferred from Illinois State, I went on a visit to Carleton. Okay, so I go on my visit, and like I'll never forget, I'm there and I love it. Like I'm like, man, this place is amazing. Like the basketball is unreal. Like Phil was there, Tommy was there. Like it's a great experience. And I had been like super sore because the workouts at Carleton are like out of this world. You know what I mean?
Heard, yeah.
So when I was leaving, I needed like a ton of ice, everything. But I had told Dave, like, I'm coming to Carleton. So he's like, all right. So then when I went home, I was out of shape a little bit. So my sister played at Cleveland State, my other sister. So she was like, I'm going back to Cleveland for the week, like for a couple of days. You want to come? You could work out and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, cool. So I went to Cleveland, and I was at Cleveland State, and I was playing open gym with the guys there. And I was playing well. Like I was playing really well. And the coaches had seen it. So the coach came to me, he's like, oh, where do you play? And I was like, I play at, I was like, I don't have a school right now. Like I'm transferring. I might go back to Canada. And he was like, no. Like, come on, let's have a meeting. So they had a meeting with me, and he was like, we like your game. We'll give you like a school. We think we could give you a scholarship. We have extra scholarship that just came available. So then I was like, oh, like I want to play D1 again. The craziest thing about this story is like I committed to Cleveland State. I didn't tell nobody, like not a soul. Only my family knew.
Okay.
And one of my best friends. A week and a half goes by, and like at Carleton, we have this thing where we say like, Dave knows everything. Like he just
yeah, I've heard, yeah.
And then nobody knew I was going to Cleveland State, and Dave he sent me a text, and it was just like, so you're going to Cleveland State? And I said, like, I didn't even know how to respond. I was just kind of like, huh? Like, how do you know this? Like, I barely knew I was going to Cleveland State,
Yeah.
But yeah, then after, like, he was just like, oh, you're going to Cleveland State. But then this is how I was like, man, like, this is a good man. Like, he really cares about his players and stuff like that. Like, then after that year was done, I was about to transfer, and I called him, and I was just kind of like, I'm considering transferring again. Like, what do you think? Like, I was like, I want to be a pro. And he's like, and I said, do you think I could be a pro? And he said, well, if you want to play professionally in like a low level and, kind of play for a couple of years and then you be done, like, yeah, you could do that if you stay at Cleveland State. But personally, like, I don't think you're good enough yet to be a pro. And I was like, okay, like if I come to Carleton, could I become a pro? And he's like, you could if you want to become a pro, like if you want to listen and want to work and whatnot. Like, yeah, I will give you the tools to be a pro, but it's not going to be easy. And then after he said that, like, it was done deal. Like I was going to Carleton.
See, I don't know if you know Will Donko, who played for X. He redshirted his first year at Carleton. And so I had the opportunity to kind of hop on a call with him and really dive deep into the Carleton culture. And word for word, he just described everything that you just described. And so that to me just speaks volumes on this culture that's created there for basketball, right? it ultimately comes down to a coach who believes in you. Because what were the differences between Dave and your coaches at Illinois and Cleveland? Like, did they give you that same sort of love or connection or trust?
Uh, I would think like I think they did care about us and stuff like that, but I think in the sense like the business side of basketball in the States is a lot different. Like I think Dave wants to teach you to be a basketball player. I think when you're in the States, it's more like you either got to come in ready or you have to kind of pick up things like, you know. But Dave was kind of like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to play the right way. I'm going to teach you basketball. And I don't think the other coaches are willing to do that, I guess you could say.
Right. For sure.
So that was one thing that I think Dave was very key on, was like developing us.
And for you, that was the key, because you said you had an honest answer. He said, no, I don't think you could be a pro right now, but if you come here, I'll teach you to be a pro, and the rest is history. So you spent how many years at Carleton? Just
2 years.
2 years, and then where was the next step after you graduated?
So when I graduated, I had to get an agent. So like that was the whole process in itself, you know. And then I got an agent, and like things didn't really go as planned with him initially. And then so I went and played in the G League, but it was because of a coach. I had Nate Mitchell. He's my trainer growing up, and he kind of just like, okay, if you don't have anything to go overseas right away, like we could come to the G League and then I could help you develop and stuff, and then we could go from there. And like, no, it was my first year out, so I was like, you know, I could, and I'd be home and I'd be around people I care about.
For sure, because you played for the 905, right?
Yeah, I played for the 905.
What is, for people that don't really know, I guess people would hear like the G League or the D League or whatever and be like, that's just for players that are just, you know, have this hoop dream of making the NBA, but they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, is that a true statement? Is that what it's like?
I would say no. Like for me, for instance, I think you have some guys that that are like on the cusp, you know, like they could get into the NBA or they could develop into that somehow. But I think for them, what happens is like they may kind of maybe not just be athletic enough. Yeah, like they're kind of on the cusp. But like for instance, in my year in the G League, we had like 4 or 5 guys get sent down consistently. You know, like Lorenzo Brown was on a 2-way. Mark Hutchinson was always getting like was down. Malcolm Miller, like they had a bunch of guys that were in the NBA that come down. So it's like you get to play against those guys every day, you know, and it's like it allows you to develop. It allows you, like I remember, I wouldn't have gotten. There's no way like playing in a second league or whatever would help me have progressed as much as it was playing my 1 year in the G League. Maybe not playing as much, but playing against Lorenzo Brown every day, having to guard him, having to, you know, that is like where I think some people don't understand. Like, yeah, maybe the dream of going to the NBA isn't as realistic, but it's like you're gonna get better no matter what.
And you're picking up habits too. Like you're constantly surrounding yourself around pro athletes and pro organizations, and you get the business side of it. And you know, it's so much more than just practicing, working on your game. It's learning the business and what it means to be like a pro athlete. So
yeah.
So from there, I saw that you played in the Netherlands, and now you're most recently played in Germany. Are there any similarities between the two leagues, or are they completely different?
I would say like between Holland and Germany, or you mean like the G League and
G League, or between them all? Like, is every league the same?
No. It's very different. Like
Of course.
Holland was a good step for me. Like I got put in a great position. Like organization was really well. Team was pretty successful. They just kind of needed somebody to help them get over the hump and stuff like that. And then, but like the level of basketball is like the top 4 teams in that league are pretty solid. Like you have like a Champions League team, Europe Cup teams, but then after that it's like bottom, you know. And that was kind of a tough situation with that. Is like you're talented and the competition wasn't as high. But in Germany, like it's one of the top leagues in all of Europe, you know, like one of the top domestic leagues. Like every day you're playing against the top players. you're playing against Bayern Munich, you're playing against Alba Berlin, so it's like you can't take no days off. And I think the difference between the G League and those leagues is like in the G League, you're playing 50 games and you're playing back to back. So it's like you lose one game, it's kind of just like, okay, on to the next one.
Sure.
But in Europe, if you lose, like coaches get fired. Like I played for 4 coaches this year. You know what I mean? Like you don't have you have to win, because if you lose, you get relegated, and you don't want to get relegated. If you lose, you could not make a cup. So it's like they're very consistent with wanting to win every game all the time.
Did any challenges come from, because when you were in the G League, you were home, but now you're way over in Europe, you're away from your family on a whole nother level. Like, what was that challenge like? Did that bring any challenges for you?
Not as much, like, because I had moved away when I was in high school, it wasn't as tough. But I think one thing that really helped me was my sister played overseas. So I kind of had that experience of like seeing what she had to go through prior. So like I remember calling her when she was in Croatia. She was up in like the mountains, in the middle of nowhere. Like, and I had to talk to her about that stuff. So it's like kind of going into, a nice city in the Netherlands isn't as bad as being in like the middle of nowhere. So
for sure,
having that with her kind of helped me know how to adjust a little easier.
That's huge, because I know exactly what you mean. I went away for high school too, in Vermont. I played ball down there, chasing that dream, whatever. But when I came back home, because originally I'm from Nova Scotia, so when I came home to play at X, I kind of felt like I was missing that discomfort that came with being on my own, because I learned so much. And so after I graduated last year from X, I moved over to London, England, just on a visa. I said, all right, I'm packing up, I'm moving, I'm going to figure my shit out, work at a restaurant, whatever, because I was craving that discomfort. And I think if I never went away for high school, there's no way I would have learned the things that I did or met the people that I did if I stayed home. Right.
Yeah.
So like, you can relate to that, obviously.
Yeah, man, it's crazy like how I could see basketball has taught me so much about different people, like cultures and everything. Like having to learn about new languages, having to learn about different cultures, different religions. Like it's insane to have to go that I've been through all of that and know how much it's helped me grow as a person. Like just the little things, even like language barriers. Like I'll never forget, like I wanted to go through a McDonald's lineup, and like the lady couldn't understand anything I was saying, and I had to like get out the car and like point at the sign, like this is what I want.
Sure.
It's crazy to think, and it allows you to see like we're just so small, we're just little things, such a great vast, world, and it's like it allows you to kind of understand like you're not as big as you think. You're not
there's
so much more.
I'm experiencing that too, because I had to travel home because of the coronavirus. And when I got here, I kind of felt like the mood or energy, even in the Toronto airport compared to the London airport, it just didn't feel like people were taking it as serious. And especially in Nova Scotia being so small, like you can't blame the people that live here for thinking that way, because that's all they know. Like they're in this one little space. But I think what you're saying is when you have the experience of going other places, it does open up your mind that it's a much bigger place.
Yeah.
And people think differently, people act differently, people operate differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's as we're kind of finishing up here, I want to touch on there's a funny story, just to kind of run back to the Acadia tournament and just the Carleton culture in general. I remember, I'll never forget this, and I don't think like any of my teammates will forget this either. I remember we played you guys, swept, whatever, you guys were just getting a sweat on, but there was a moment in that game or something that either someone fell, there was sweat, someone dropped water, whatever, and I think I think you picked up the mop or something and you went over on the baseline and cleaned it up, whatever, let's keep it going. When I tell you that story continued on, I think a couple of practices later, same thing happened to us on our team in our practice, and we were just waiting around for the manager to do it. And I'll never forget this. I still laugh about it, because Coach K got so upset at us. He said, do you want to know why Carleton is the best team in the country? is because their best player is the one running over to clean up that water or that spill while we're just waiting around for the manager. And I tell you, for the rest of the year, we used to fight over the towel because we were like, nah, I want to be like KAZA. I'm doing whatever, right? So I just thought that was I wanted to share that just because, like, it's true. If you really boil it down to the absolute like meaning behind doing something as small as that, it's doing the small things every single day. It's going to get you to where you want to be, or it's like holding yourself accountable, right?
Yeah.
What, like, is that something ingrained in you from like your family or growing up, or was that something that you were kind of forced to do at Carleton?
I think my family ingrained it in me, but I think Carleton kind of allowed that to be acceptable, or like, I think sometimes, for instance, it's like the cool guy kind of thing, you know, like when I was in the States, for instance, like I remember we'd have scrimmages and like the music could be on and like winning wasn't really as important. And but at Carleton, it was kind of like if you did that, like we'd make fun of you. Like, oh, you think you're a cool guy, huh? Like, oh, you don't think you have to wake up like that was just kind of how we all were conditioned, you know? And I think it stemmed from the top. Like we didn't, the cool guy to us was like a loser, you know? Like, okay, yeah, you can't do that. I'll beat you every day. Like that's just how we kind of, and I think why it was like that is because, you know, like I can't, like for me, it was always like, what am I going to really say? This, like our coaches won 14 national championships. What am I going to say? What am I going to do that's ever going to, you know, like, or like, I remember somebody asked me, like, how do you feel about being an all-Canadian? I was just like, well, I go to a school where there was a 5-time all-Canadian, you know, I could go to school where there was a 3-time player of the year.
Who am I, right? Yeah.
Like, who am I to really compare to that, you know? And I think that's just kind of what's ingrained in us. And I think even if you look at like the guys that have done great things, like Osvaldo and Phil and Aaron, like they all have that same demeanor. I think it's just the culture. Like we don't look at the guys that are the cool guys. Like I remember when some D1 guys would come back to play scrimmage with us, and our mindset was like, I'm gonna just show you how much better all of us are than you. You could play at University of Connecticut, you could play at Florida. Like we're just gonna show you we're better than you guys, you know? And I think that was one thing that always stuck out to me. It was like, it doesn't matter. I could wipe the floor up. I don't care about that. I just want to win. That just came from playing at Carleton.
I think you see that in a lot of like pros today too. Like especially watching the MJ documentary, listening to Kobe speak. It's just like they all have this mentality of just like, man, I don't care. Like it's just excellence. It just boils down to wanting to be the greatest, and you don't really care. Like I'm kind of starting to experience it a little bit with this platform that I'm trying to build. Is I never like spoke openly about it because, you know, obviously you have these doubts of like, what are people gonna think, or like, are they gonna think I'm a loser or like a nerd or whatever? And just on Sunday, I came out and kind of said, hi, my name is Tristan. I'm doing this, like whatever. I kind of opened up, and it was almost like a freeing feeling, because I'm at the point where I believe in something. I don't really care what other people are gonna think. So I think you can see that in sports, but then you also have to bring that into every other avenue in your life or whatever.
Yeah.
Last simple question. This is kind of for, I like to frame it as like, this is for all the parents or the grandparents watching who have that mentality of like, go to school, get your degree, like basketball is good and all, but take care of business first. If basketball wasn't in the picture, if you didn't have the success that you did, if you didn't have the drive, if you didn't play basketball, what do you think you would be doing?
I would go into law. I think that is something that like always interesting. Always gave me like a big interest. Was my mom works in a law firm, so I'm surrounded by lawyers a lot. Like they come to my games in the G League and stuff like that. And some of the stuff they communicate with me was very interesting. Like I remember there's this one lawyer that works in my mom's law firm, sports. Like he's a sports lawyer, so he has to take like certain things that involve sports and kind of battle those cases. So one of the cases he had was there was a girl, and I don't know if you remember, but she was an African runner and she had like extra testosterone. So they're trying to say fit to run in female races, but he had to fight that case, like to know that she's allowed. So it's crazy to like, to understand like how we don't think that goes in sports, or you know what I mean?
For
But
sure.
he's a lawyer that had to defend stuff like that, or like another one of the cases, or one of the things my mom's law firm took care of was when the Expos were coming to MLB. She was the one that, like, her law firm was one of the law firms that took care of that, like make sure the contracts were all good, the stadiums and stuff like that. So that's always been something that I've been interested in, is like the backside of law and sports.
For sure. And in that way, I mean, people ask me that question too. And for me, it was just always basketball. That was my biggest passion. But I guess like I'm seeing myself do it now. Like I still want to be involved in sports. Like last week I did a U of T hockey player, and I asked him the same question. And he said, man, like I just can't think of anything else but sport. Like I'm trying to make the NHL. Like, why wouldn't I go all in? Why would I have a backup? But again, he said the same thing. He said, sports psychology. I need sports. I need sports in my life. So I think it's important, and I don't think it's a bad thing either, because as I'm beginning to see, sports is much more than just winning games. And sports is much more like you're learning how to be an excellent human being, I guess, right? Or a professional
Yeah,
in a sense.
yeah, for sure. I think sometimes we lose sight of that. Like, when I'm on the national team, we have a sports psychologist, a psych that travels with us, a psychologist that travels with us everywhere. He's this older guy that's really quiet, like, he's a great dude. And I remember one time, like, I had a tough game, and like he could see I was out of it, and he broke it down to the simplest form. He was just like, "What are you mad about?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You're playing a sport, like a kid's recreational sport. This game was made for kids, and you're getting to travel the world. You're getting to play for money. You're getting to represent your country. Like, what are you really mad about? And it really made me understand, like, man, sports are so much more than just like wins and losses. Like, it just teaches you so much about life. Like, I would have never gotten that life lesson if it wasn't for sports. But it was interesting to see it come from him.
For sure. It's always nice when someone else can put something that you're going through in a different perspective, and it can almost sometimes make you feel dumb and change the way you think about it. KAZA, anything else you want to kind of touch on before we call this up?
Nothing really. No, nothing really. I would
You're
say,
nice,
like,
huh?
let's say the only thing I think, I appreciate, like, bringing me on and stuff like that. And I think this platform is really good. Like, there's something, I've been talking to some other guys that are working with the CIS or U Sports and stuff like that. And it's great to see it kind of getting out there and more. And I think it's such a great platform for athletes. Like, I think one thing a lot of basketball players overlook is this level, is the U Sports. And I was talking to some high school kids the other day, and I was like, if you're not RJ Barrett, if you're not these top guys that are going to high majors, or you're not going to like a really good mid major, I don't understand, like, what's the question about considering sports or even taking a visit and checking it out. Like, I see some kids going to Idaho State, U State in Texas. Like, yeah, degree isn't going to be similar to a top or prestigious Canadian school. You're probably not going to get as much basketball as you would. Like, so I think things like this that you're doing will help promote that and help kids see that this is a great level of sports.
Well, especially to hear it from you, because like not like, obviously I did my research and I kind of looked at it and whatever, but like looking at you, I would never have thought, or even like it's not at the forefront of my mind that you went to Division 1 and 2 schools, because you were so prominent at Carleton, and yet you were still able to achieve the level of success that you have. Like, you're still able to play at the high level that you are right now. And it just goes to show, like you said, yeah, it's a performance-based game, but you have to you have to overlook the names. Like the hockey player I did last week said the same thing. It's just like guys have this in their mind that it has to be Division 1, it has to be OHL, it has to be this league. But if you can find the right program for you that's going to help you develop, then why wouldn't you, right? So it's just it's nice to hear that from you, and that's what this is what I'm trying to accomplish, really, is just to give athletes like you an opportunity to share the story so others can listen.
Yeah.
KAZA, last little logistical thing, the same thing we opened up with. We just need to end with that, saying, my name's KAZA, and you were watching UndressTheJersey.
Hello, my name's KAZA, and you were just watching UndressTheJersey.
Boom.
Side note,
KAZA,
those rings, if anybody supports those X rings, is Kevin Bursey. When we were at nationals, we had our national team game, and this has to get recorded because this needs to get posted. So we were playing the university games, and like it was definitely a different adjustment thing for me, going from like playing at Carleton, where it's like everybody's just kind of like, you know, has this mentality, to going to university games. Like not everybody had that mentality, but like Kevin was just such a great spirit, you know what I mean? Like the funniest guy in the room all the time. Like, but that ring, this guy would wear that ring everywhere. Like we'd get off the court and he would put that ring on before he would even take his jersey off. Like, you know, and I was like, bro, what is it about that ring? He's like, it's the X ring, it's X ring. And then like, okay, well, you know, what is it saying it? You know, and he takes it off. Bursey Nation. I was like, oh, I'm done.
His Instagram, hey, that's all you need to know about Kevin, is the guy put Bursey Nation in his X-ray, which is just crazy. No, that's funny, man. It's cool. Like my parents have one. You see all kinds of grandparents with it. It's just kind of, I don't know. You wouldn't understand if you didn't go to X, right? But no, it's funny.
I respect that though. All of you guys. Like I remember when I was in the G League, she did media. She went to X. She always wore it. Like it's nice to see that you guys wear those like religiously, you know, and it's a good thing.
Was that Shelby?
Yeah.
Shelby Weaver. She's friends with. She grew up in the friend group that I'm one of my good friends. But we had the opportunity to talk to her too about working for the Raptors, and that's a whole nother side of sports, but she's amazing. So shout out Shelby. Man, I don't know if I can show that clip to Kevin. He's gonna get too hyped. He's gonna get hyped. I wasn't trying to put his name on this, but you did it for me. So now, KAZA, I really appreciate you coming on, man. So good luck in everything. I hope you can get back over to Europe after this is said and done, if that's the plan for you.
Yeah. You know, like in Germany, they're gonna start the league up again in June. So some teams are considering bringing me in for that. Like, so we'll see how it goes.
Take a day at a time, I guess, at this point. So, All right, man. Stay safe.
Sounds good. All right, man.
All right, bro. Appreciate it. Take care.
Bust down, but guess I want diamonds. Fangs in my mouth, cause I'm shining. Jewelry fake while you lying. All of this capping a virus.